working on a 2021 RAV4, and I'd like to demonstrate what I would consider a proper windshield removal and good techniques to help prevent any damage on the vehicle when removing the windshield or trimming out the old adhesive. So I want to talk about a couple different tools, and also we're going to do the demonstration actually pulling the windshield. So a couple things to note before we get started. We've already got some pre-inspection pictures of this car, but this windshield has been replaced before. And so far, the only damage I can see from when the windshield was replaced is some scratching on this fender right down here. It almost looks like maybe they bumped it with the glass when they were taking it up out of the hole or something like that. So this fender was bumped on the last removal. I don't see anything else that kind of jumps out at me, but we'll figure out when we get that glass out if there's anything else going on with it. So in the last video that got so much attention, we were talking about the express tool, or the extractor, which looks like a big Sawzall basically. And I would like to show some alternatives to that tool, as well as some methods that you can use that are just more effective. Like I said before in the last video, that tool can be a useful tool. However, too many people abuse it and abuse cars with it, and they'll just roll up to a job and they'll whip the whole windshield out with it. They'll cut all the way around and they'll scar the car all up. And it's just, it's not good for the long-term health of the car. Ultimately, we should be, as automotive technicians, as glass technicians, we should be striving to do zero damage to the car, visible or non-visible, if at all possible. That is our primary job, is to do no damage to the car. So if you wanna come on over, I'll show you about some of the tools we got. So we have a couple different options. I've got a wire cutout system, or a fiber line cutout system. This is a really good product. There's sometimes that this tool is not always the best option. It is on a lot of different things, but sometimes it doesn't work very well. You've also got a cold knife type tool, which is got a blade that goes on a handle and you pull it around the outside edge of the glass. It allows you to cut under the edge of the glass and cut the adhesive out on it. And then some good old handles for hand lining stuff. I use a little bit of a different method hand lining things out than most technicians do. Most technicians like to use like a square wire or a piano type wire cutting out towards the bottom of the windshield with handles. I actually like to use soft wire and or fiber wire. A lot of guys don't do it this way. I'm kind of unique in this aspect. And then let's talk about some trim tools as well. So in some of the comments, we were talking about different types of trim tools that work pretty well for not doing damage to the car. We have a BTB anti-scratch pinch weld trim kit. This works really well. You can still scratch the car with these if you are not careful. Any blade can scratch the car. Like I said before, it's on us. We need to do a good job at trying to do no damage to the car, if at all possible. I also mentioned like a WRD wing type blade, which is this blade right here. And it's kind of got a razor's edge on it. It goes on like a screwdriver type handle that has like an X-Acto blade type insert that holds the blade. And these work really well as well. The only problem I have with these is they just dull out so fast. And I feel like I'm throwing away a $7 blade every couple windshields we do, it seems like. And then there's also like a traditional flat blade, and this is a real common tool we see in the industry, especially by some bigger companies that we tend to fix a lot of damage after. So this tool is also useful. However, it's just not useful all the way around the windshield. When we get this windshield out, we'll see what it looks like on the bottom, and I'll demonstrate some of these tools for you guys to show you my preferred methods. This is also another preferred method to cut out the bottom of the windshield. As you can see, I use this tool so little that the blade's rusted. That's how long it's been since I picked this tool up. I hardly ever touch this tool. This is another tool that when you need it, you need it. But if you don't, it just sits there and it rusts. Blades rust on it, hardly ever touch it. I use this to open boxes more than I do on cars. All right, well, I'm gonna get after it here. So if you'll come around up front for me. This windshield's got a big 3/4 molding on it that comes encapsulated onto the glass. It's typically double-sided tape or urethane or something like that. With this molding on here, it is very difficult to get a wire or a blade or anything in here. So I like to get them out of the way first. Sometimes you can get in here and get it started and peel it out, but that's not gonna work on this one. This one's gonna break the glass trying to pull it off. So, I'm gonna get this flat blade here. When using this, we want to stay off the body of the car. We don't want to do any scratching to the car, so I'm going to be very careful to cut just the molding and stay off of the paint. I know there are going to be some people that troll me about not using gloves. I don't prefer to use gloves. I find that if I'm going to get hurt, I get hurt more with gloves than I do without them. I don't have as much feel of what I'm doing with my blades and with my equipment, and I just prefer not to use gloves, and I'll take my chances. Again, still staying off of this paint, not doing any damage here. Get this out of the way. Okay, so that molding set in there pretty tight. Just gonna wet it with a little bit of water, make the blade. It's just water, is all this is. So let it wet it with a little bit of water and make the blade pull through it a little easier. So this scratch in this corner, this tool is also another tool, very useful. You can still do damage with it. This scratch in this corner, like I said, it could have been from the windshield coming out of the hole, they bumped it, or it could have been from this tool. If you get this tool over, or you're going downward or something with this tool, you can hit this fender and you can scratch this fender. And that didn't feel too good. Yep, it's just, that whole side popped loose as soon as I cut that little bit of tension off of it. So this windshield is not in here very well. It doesn't seem like. I'm a little taller. I got long arms, so I can do a lot of this on a lot of vehicles without ever having to step up in the door. A lot of other folks just can't do that. Due to height reasons. I think perfect, either way is perfectly acceptable. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this cold knife blade across the bottom and get this cowl molding off of it so that I can get my hand wire in here a little better. If I can get my blade to go where I want it. There it goes. fine time. That didn't go the way I wanted it to. All right. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get called crazy by some folks online for hand lining with a fiber line, but it's just kind of a method I've developed over the years, and I like it, and it works well for me. Do whatever you're going to do. This car is actually a pretty good candidate for using the extractor across the bottom of it because it's an open pinch well. There's nothing down there to hit or scratch with the extractor. So this is a pretty good candidate if that was something you wanted to do. Like I said, as I expressed in the last video, I don't really like the extractor. So you're gonna get some dash protectors up here. I got a variety of things. We got some equalizer products here that are, I don't know, something like $35 a piece, and they don't last very long, relatively, I guess. And then a more cost-effective alternative, but it's a little more flimsy, it's just Walmart flexible cutting boards. Just disposable, well, they're not disposable, but reusable thin. You can get like, I don't know, a 6-pack or an 8-pack for a couple dollars. You get all this up here, across the dash. We want to protect the VIN number from getting damaged. We want to protect the dash from getting any damage. And we're going to see if the hand line wants to work on this one. We'll see how much urethane they put on it from the last install, and I lost my hand line there. Oh, this is such an ineffective way to do it. My line's also a little clapped out. I've only hand lined about 10 or 12 windshields out with this thing. We run teams a lot around here. This also is easier with a 2-man team. Looks like they got a little fat right there in the center. This would have been a factory bead. This actually would have been quite a bit smoother. Now, let's see what it looks like underneath it, now that we know it's been replaced before. Let's see if they butchered it up. Unfortunately, I spend a lot of my time cleaning up a lot of stuff that other shops think is acceptable. This goes for national chain shops that have fancy jingles, and also other shops that are a little more independent. I encourage you to read all the reviews on a shop that you may choose to do your work. Good Google reviews, Facebook reviews. They'll give you a good idea of the folks you're dealing with. And be aware of paid for reviews. They look pretty obvious. If you read through it, you can tell what's paid for and what's not paid for. Oh, it doesn't have gloves. See what it looks like. So There was no urethane making contact with the glass through this section. That's about 6 or 8 inches long. And then this shiny spot right here, it's a little wet, but from there to there was a bond failure. It wasn't attached to the windshield at all. Or it went on initially and then it had a bond fail.
Should we get a look at the glass?
Oh yeah, we could flip the glass around and take a look at what the urethane bead looks like on it. It looks like they run a V-bead, which is a plus. V-bead is industry standard. It kind of looks like they didn't pull the cowl. I see where they set this side first and they landed real well with it and then rolled the other side down and kind of scooped the urethane. It made contact, but it still scooped. Not a preferred method. I've seen a bunch of windshields leak from doing stuff like that. And I mean, other than that, it's not very pretty work. The bead could definitely be prettier, could be straighter. That's a skill that just takes time to develop. When we walk with me, we'll take a look at what the urethane looks like on the glass. Turn this light off because you can't see anything past it. All right, so there's the section that the urethane was not making contact to the glass. This area right here looks like a bond failure. It actually looks like the primer failed on the glass. So, judging by how much primer's on this glass, this looks a lot like a space flight job. And you can see where they stuffed it right here when I'm talking about. So this windshield, the cowl falls down below the glass, so it's not really stuffing because you're not stuffing the glass under it. You're just setting the glass on the cowl. But right here on the passenger side, so they clearly set it from the driver's side. Passenger side looks good. Urethane bead landed good all the way across the bottom. They got a real fat bead in the center of it. They're a real inconsistent bead. But all this over here is where they scooped it down. And it just rolled the urethane and mashed the urethane. That's where you get this wavy look and where it's got multiple points of contact on this lower side. Right there, that little tiny 1/16 of an inch little piece of urethane was the only thing that was bonded in this corner over here. And then there's a couple different spots that there were primer failure across the top. That's indicative of not properly prepping the part. All right here too, you got primer failure. Yep, that's indicative of not properly prepping the part. There's contaminations. All right, so let's trim it out. We'll use the scary tool, the one that did all the damage on the 23 Challenger, or Charger. It was Charger, that's what it was. So.
Well, at the top.
Yeah, at the top. All the bottom of it was done with an extractor. Now right here, I'd be a little more careful because there's a hump right here in that lower pinch well. You can scratch that with this tool if you get on it too tight. Get plenty of room. Make sure nothing's getting scratched up or chunked out. And I'm gonna stop right there so I can come back with a blade to stop scratching, to prevent scratching. And watch out for your VIN number. It's just a sticker. It will scrape right off. Also, fun fact, if you accidentally get something like an acetone or a denatured alcohol on that, the numbers will wipe off. Ask me how I know. All right, so with this BTB kit, we got different blade widths. They're all interchangeable with a little tool. This guy's a bit wide. I'm gonna go with a skinnier blade on it. We'll adjust when we get to the top if we got to. So, well, whoever trimmed it out, I give them this. I don't see any scratching. So that's a huge plus. Maybe they're on the right path to being a good installer. So we had some comments on that last video asking why the top was scratched. I mean, not why this top was rusted and the bottom wasn't rusted. Some folks saying that maybe we did the scratching with the Express tool since that was the only tool that was seen in my hand. I'd like to show probably a good reason why the top was rusted and the bottom was not. So on the top of this windshield, any dirt that gets on this glass, you can see all through here it's wet where I put water on it, but all this dirt and this grime and this pollen and everything that gets on these windshields, it comes down and it compacts behind this molding and it composts. And it turns into, see there's some leaves, it just turns into a mess. So this stays a humid, moist, dirty environment. Whereas down at the bottom, you can see there's hardly any dust or dirt down here. So it was not holding anything on it that was making the corrosion possibly speed up. So most likely, all the scratches were done at the same time on the last car. And just due to the different locations of the scratches at the top started to corrode first. Because the car was only a 2023. And it had been recently purchased from a dealership outside of Charleston, Somerville area. So I mean, as far as I know, it could have been done within months. I don't know exactly, but it was long enough to start corroding. But now we live on the coast. We're next to saltwater. So is Charleston. So is Somerville. So, I mean, we're in a prime environment for corrosion to happen. We aren't lucky like some of you guys out west that have the perfect environment and cars don't rot away. Over here in the southeast, especially on the coast, cars rot. But we also don't have it as bad as some of you guys up there in the Rust Belt. You boys got it rough. All right, well, we got all this old adhesive out of the way. I'm gonna get in here and clean out this dirt. Typically, it's a better method to do it before you trim the urethane, but due to the way the urethane was ran, the type of molding that was on it, some vehicles, that's just not possible. So we're gonna go, I'm gonna wash this out, get it cleaned out, get it wiped down, put some acetone on it, put a little activator on top of this urethane like Sika recommends doing, and we'll get a windshield reinstalled in it. Probably on the next video, a couple videos away, I'm gonna try to shoot a video using the Fiberline cutout tool. We'll demonstrate that one. So now you've seen us hand cut one out with basic hand tools, and then we'll show you some of the more advanced tools coming up soon. Thank you guys for checking it out.